Let's talk Tanya for the 16th of Iyar of a leap year. So in yesterday's Tanya, in fact, the Tanya of the last few days, we're talking about the two modalities of divine light, the infinite light of God, known as seminal Kalalman, the finite light of God, the finite energy which extends from God, which is known as mamalik Kalalman. And yesterday we also explained the individual function of each one of them. Now, the infinite light of God is also known as God's yediyah, God's knowledge. The fact that everything exists is only because God is aware of its existence. If you recall, we gave a parable in the Tanya of 2 days ago. We spoke about it also a little yesterday. The idea of that when you're envisioning something, you're aware of it. So here we have also the same thing. It is actually God's awareness of everything that's going on which causes it to exist. So Soivav Kalalman, which is the infinite light of God, which creates everything, something from nothing, as we explained yesterday, is also identified with God's knowledge. And this, to understand this a little better, and emphasis being, in other words, a little, so the Rambam famously tells us that God's knowledge is different than our knowledge. By us, we have, when we are aware of something, so there's three entities over here. There's me, the human being, there is my knowledge, there is the thing that is known. And the Rambam tells us that by God, all three are one. And therefore God, everything he knows is by way of self-knowledge. Now, in case you're trying to twist your mind around on a pretzel to figure out how does that work, what does that mean? The Rambam says, don't bother. This is not something which is in the human experience, and therefore we can't relate to it whatsoever. But the fact is, the Rambam tells us that God's knowledge is absolutely one with him. And therefore, it's not surprising that just as God is infinite and has the ability to create everything, something from nothing, God's knowledge, which is this Soivav Kalalman, the light that surrounds the worlds, also similarly is infinite and also has the ability to create everything. With this, we've concluded chapter 48. Where are we? Why are we talking about these two modalities of divine energy? So let's just go back a little. In the beginning of chapter 46, we started talking about reciprocal love. We had two chapters where we spoke about reciprocating the love to God by contemplating the idea of the Exodus of Egypt. So in chapter 46, we spoke about the Exodus of Egypt that occurred more than 3,000 years ago. Chapter 47, we clarified this is something which happens again on a daily basis. We go out of Egypt. Contemplating that brings us to love for God. This chapter, chapter 48, which we just concluded, is starting a new concept within reciprocal love, which is coming to love God by contemplating creation. So in order to understand that, first we need to understand the dynamics of creation. Now we understand somewhat the dynamics of creation, that in order to allow for creation, there had to be this tzimtzum, this contraction, which now causes that there are two different types of light. There's the infinite light, and then there's the finite light. How does all of this lead us to a reciprocal love for God? And what does that have to do with love anyways? That will be the topic of the next chapter, chapter 49, which we will, God willing, start in tomorrow's Tanya.